Do you ever wonder why it feels like all the shows Hollywood makes for black people are so basic? That's on purpose. A few years ago, I sold my first TV series to BET, and they even told the press that they were making 8 episodes of my show. But when we got into the development on my show, they told me it was too complex.
Hey, pen pals. So I am not here to negate any of this young man's experience, but I do think that this is a learning lesson. So let's talk about it. Shannan E. Johnson here, CEO of The Professional Pen, where we develop screenwriters from idea to pitch. Need help in your screenplay? Go to www.theprofessionalpen.com. If you watch the video, and you should go back and watch it, what you hear the young man saying is he sold a project to BET, and while they were developing it, the executives told him to dumb it down. They said the storylines were too complex. They said their audience is single mothers who are at home multitasking while watching their shows, so it needs to be something they can follow without paying close attention to. And in response, the young man feels like, well, why is it that because we're making Black content, especially on Black entertainment television, is it that they want our stories to be so simple? Well, here is the answer. And you guys have probably heard me say this a million times before. It is your job to do your research about the place, studio, network, production company, whichever one it is, to know what kind of content they make and if they're speaking to the same audience that you want to speak to. This is the reason why I say, don't just go into anybody's inbox and say, hey, will you make my project? Because they might say yes, and then they're going to turn your project into something that works for their audience and their brand and not what you want to write. So in this particular case, BET has never, and I mean never, made complex stories. As a matter of fact, those of us who are old enough know that they started off kind of like MTV with just music-based stuff. They had a couple of news segments, etc. Now they program very few hours of scripted television. So even if you go to BET right now, you're not going to necessarily see 5-6 hours of scripted television every single day because that's not their bread and butter, right? So what happened is BET knows their audience. So that means taking a complex project to BET probably wasn't the best move in the first place. Now, another thing that the young man says in the video is that BET is owned by Paramount. Therefore, it is the white man that doesn't want Black people to tell complex stories. Well, BET has been owned by Paramount for a very long time. Okay. But guess what? We got Snowfall. OWN is not all the way owned by Oprah Winfrey. Okay. And guess what we get? Queen Sugar, and even Love Is, which only lasted one great season, right? We get Insecure, and that's on HBO. But guess what? All of those networks are owned by white people, every single one of them. So it's not about white people in general not wanting Black people to tell complex stories. You have to go to the place where they tell complex stories, okay? So do your research, figure out the best place for your content versus just going anywhere where people are willing to accept your content. You are researching them and interviewing them as much as they are doing that to you. You want to make sure you're aligned with the right people to tell your story. Okay? Happy writing.
The Professional Pen. The